Hi, this is Christian. Welcome to Java 2. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create managed bean inside JSF and how you can access those properties inside a managed bean. Okay, so this is the example that we've been working on. I'm going to change, well, not change, we'll modify this in a bit here. But let's just say that you want to create a bean, okay, a managed bean, the same way you will create inside JSP. Okay, the Java code is very related. Notice also that in here I cannot put any scriptlet, JSP scriptlets. So for example, you cannot do this in here. Okay, it's not allowed. So in JSP you could do that. You can do like string name and then something like that. It allows you to put JavaScript or Java code in here, right? Well, no longer true for JSF. You cannot do that anymore. So all the scriptlets, the expression language for JSP are no longer available here. You can only use the expression language, which is the $, okay, that or the £, just those two, and plus the special tags up here, so custom tags. Okay, so to create a bean. Let me save this file, and then let's just say we create a class. You have to create a class because a managed bean or a Java bean is really just a class. Okay, I'm going to create a new package in here. I don't like the src empty, so we're going to create a new package. We'll just call this maybe like com.gtc.jsf. Okay, and then we'll just click finish. Inside the package here, we're going to create a new class. We'll just call it typical student class. Call it student class. Okay, the class name. We could put a constructor in here. That's fine. You can turn that off or on. I'll leave it on because a Java bean needs a constructor. And click finish. Okay, so here it is. And this file, we have a empty constructor that's satisfies one of the rules for a Java bean. It's a class. It has to be set public. Must have a public constructor. There is no argument. Okay, you can have other classes of constructors. That's fine, but that's all you need here. And it asks you to also implement the serializable class, but interface. But you don't have to do that if you're not going to save your files, your data to a file or a database. You don't need that as well. It's not required. So I'm not going to do that here. Okay, we'll just do that here for now. And then I think that's it. Inside here, two things that you want to add in here are the managed bean name and then the scope. Okay, if you remember in JSP, if you do it in JSP, up here somewhere, right? When you do up here, you have something like something like that, and you say JSP use bean, right? And you give an ID. This is the bean name, maybe like student or something. You have a scope, right? Is just say session, and then right, something like that, right? If similar, you have a ID name for the bean name, and you have the scope. Okay, that's pretty much what you need here as well inside your class. So in here, we need to put the annotation. We're using annotation here. Again, this is a really cool method to do that because now we don't have to do that manually inside the config file anymore. If you don't do this, you will have to go into the config file again, and in here, kind of similar to what we did with the navigation, you will have to use like the managed bean in here. There's a bean right here. So there's a managed bean, and then you have to create the whole process in here manually. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Okay, so we'll do that in here, and we'll just use this annotation called the @ symbol followed by the name managed bean. Okay, you can use that. Or sometimes you see in the book somewhere else that might just put named here. Okay, either one is fine. The named is probably the more preferred method, and eventually I think it's going to replace managed bean, because the named applies to, you can use that across pretty much all Java applications. Whereas if you put managed bean, that usually only applies to JSF. Okay, so you will see that inside other applications, and this is also used inside the textbook. So I'm going to use the managed bean for now. Managed bean, and then the other annotation is the scope. So I'll just say that I want to use the session scope. It would say session scoped. Okay, and there's like session scope. You have what else do you have? You have the right, application scoped, right? Or you have the view scoped, and you have what else do you have? Page scope, right? Okay, and you also have the request scoped. So you have, you know, several scoped here. Okay, and so when you do that, you need to import this Java server JavaX faces bean in here, and if you can see, that also uses the same Java.faces bean. So you can just put here and then remove that, replace it with a star. Okay, takes care of both issues. Okay, so the bean here is if you don't supply a name. Okay, usually you can do that and then put a paren inside, use the name attribute, and you give it a name. So you can use like student or something. Okay, and then you can reference its name to access the class and all its properties, right? So you can do that if you want. If you don't supply a name, if you leave it blank like this, then by default Java will use the class name as your bean name. Okay, the only thing that it does is it will replace the first character with a lowercase. Okay, so that's your class. Your class name always starts with the uppercase, right? I mean, that's convention by convention, and you should always use you know, Pascal casing for your class names. And your bean name then should always start with the lowercase, and then the rest will stay as is. Okay, and that's your bean name. So let me just show you how that works. Let's just say we don't give it a name, use the default class name. Okay, in here I want to say, put a message here, system out dot print line. I'm going to say should put some message in here, bean created, so we know that it's been created when we instantiate this bean. Okay, a bean is nothing more than an object, right? This is the same thing as saying, you know, in your code you do something like, you know, the student class. If I call it as new student class, right? That's all it is. So this is like the bean. This one here, all it does is it instantiates an object called student class, but it will look like this with a lowercase s. And now this student class object, which is a bean, will be used to access the data inside this whole class. Okay, so and then this whole thing here is really you know, translated into the managed bean here, right? So now I can have another class here, I mean another function here, just a string. We're going to return a you know, something. So I'm going to say get message. Okay, and here return a string, hello GTC, just that string for this example. Alright, so I'll save that, and now inside my index file I'm gonna replace this whole line here with that, well, not the whole thing, but we'll replace that. Output, the value will be, I'll call that function in there to print the message here to the user. So for example, it would say hello GTC here instead, right? Okay, so to do that, I'll use the output text. Inside the value, I want to use the EL, or language expression language here, to access this method here. Okay, I have to use the b name, which is the class name in this case, and then use the dot notation to call this method. Okay, I could do like the class would be, or the b name would be student in lowercase class. Okay, dot, and if you do a control space bar, you'll see that. Well, it doesn't have access to that one yet, but well, I'm not sure it's not there. It'll be get message, and then that's the function. Close that language, and there you save it. All right, and since we modified the class, so this may or may not work. I don't think it does, but if it doesn't, you have to recompile everything here. See if you're making any changes. Yeah, so it did. Okay, so now it says hello GTC because it calls this class, and it calls this method called getMessage and returns the string back, and it puts it into the output text here as a string. So we do a source view, you will see that it's just the message hello GTC. Okay, now that's pretty cool, right? So you call the method here. Okay, now I'm going to show you another one again, and this one I'm going to copy and put it down here. And we'll put a different page. We'll put the about page here. Okay, and I'll put here. Let's just put an H2. Okay, and we will create a new method here, and I'll call this public string again. Maybe we do like get about page. Okay, so here return for like about our page or site or whatever. Return that message there to the about page, and instead of a get message, it will say get about. Okay, so let's go back to the page here, do a publish, and if we go to about page, and here it is about page, and this is about our page, which is rendered by this code here. Okay, so now watch this. If I were just to say about without any of that, and we'll change the text to something else about our GTC sample page or sample site, right? Would do maybe not sample, but sample. We'll put like a JSF demo site. Okay, save that. Go back here again. I'm just referencing to the about, which is kind of similar to what we see here, right? Okay, about, and save. Go back to the output, and then we publish that. Okay, and go here again. You'll see that it changes, right? It changes the content to match our class information in the method here. But if you look in the code, there is no function anywhere in the class called about. So where does it get that information? How does it know to call this method here to return this message to our page? Okay, and the reason is because if you remember, you create instances, fields, right? If you notice this pattern, there's a get message, get about. Okay, now these are called, it's like getters and setters, right? These are getters. So typically you have something like up here, a private string, okay, called message, right? You have a private string called about, okay, and then you will create setters and getters, okay, and I don't have the get here, but you could create a set as well, right? You could have a public set, void type set message, and it will take a string here called str. We can also call it message, it's fine, message, and then you will set this message is equal to the message here, okay, and you do the same thing with the about, right? Public string, void set about. and it will put a string here about. Again, this is I'm coding right now, but you could actually use the setters and getter to do that for you automatically. Okay, so if you look at this, it follows this pattern: set, set, and get, set, and get. Okay, so in your code, when you have this option, if you have a setter and getter, typically if you put the bean name dot just about, this references the attribute, the attribute of the object or the property of the object, right? So about is a property of that object called student class. The message is also that as well. So what that means, you always have a getter and a setter. Okay, so when you put this in your code, JSF is smart enough to know it expects to find a method in there called get about, and it will ignore this, and well, it should say ignore, but if you look at the property, and it will load the get or the get about, and it will load that for you, right? Okay, so that's where it comes from. So if I go back here, if I change this to, instead of the get message, I just put message, okay, and that would work as well. And just to make sure that it works, I could change here, put hello there, GTC. Okay, we save that, and then here we would just republish that and go back to the home page. You see that there is the new information, and we change that to just call the property name. Okay, same thing with service. If I create a function in here called get service, even though I don't have any of the parameters up here, it will know what to call because it looks for a get method of that service name. Alright, so really cool, save you a lot of time. So you don't have to put the method in here, just call the property, and it's smart enough to know that is a get method. Okay, if you want to set data though, then you would I think you have to call the actual method. So for example, in the about, if I want to change that to something else, then I would do, like, maybe up here somewhere, I use a the hidden input to set the data. So in there, the value is going to be student class dot set about, and I'll take in the string here, I would just say about GTC site. Okay, so now it will replace the actual message here, because when you instantiate this, well, when you call it, the about page, it's going to load everything from top to bottom. It goes here, then it changes the text to this, and we get a new text. Just to make sure that it works, let me copy this and put it down here. Okay, and I will not do anything there. I'll keep the default. Now change the new text, and then we'll call it again at the second message, and you should see the changes in here. So save that again and go back to the home page, or anywhere, just republish it. Okay, home, about. I think I probably did something incorrectly here. What happened about this GTC? Well, let me just let me close this and do a new thing here. Let's see, about page, set about. Yep, should work. Student set about student site. Oh, I forgot to put the curly brace here. I missed that. Let's save that and then run. And so here you see let me just do this. Okay. And the reason why you see it, because I think I changed it. Once you change it, then when you call it, right, it actually changes the data to when I call it, only the first time around. So what that means is, let me just do this. Let me clear the project, and let me stop this and clean the server. So we'll see the difference. So I wanted to show that it prints the original message, which is about GTC demo site. Okay. After that, then it should set to a new string called about GTC, and if I call it again, it's supposed to say about GTC below that file. But let's try to see if that is resolved. Okay. So I don't know. Not sure why it's not working, but you can change data from. I might have to reset or reload the Eclipse. Okay, but I want to show you. I just want to show you that you can change data by calling the method and then supply the string or the value to change that information. All right. Okay, so again, just to show you that when you run this file, you will see that it has the bean created in here. So when you instantiate the bean, right in the index page, when you call this file, it instantiates the student class bean, so it will call the constructor. Okay, calls the constructor and it prints this out. That's what you see here. Okay, so the bean name is student class, and if you want to change to different beans, you can do that here. You just say maybe student class is too long. I want to make it short. Just say student. Okay, you can do that, right? So let's save that, and then so if I go back and see if there are any changes to this, go to the republish, and okay, so you can see that it no longer recognizes that bean name, right? Because we change it to call just student. So I need to change that to student there and also in here. So this should be just student and student here as well. Now I guess we don't need this anymore. I mean this one. Okay, so save this and then republish it and refresh. Okay, so here it is, it's back again. Alright, so the bean is a student now. Okay, so that's how you create functions and methods or other properties inside your class and reference it inside the JSF page using the bean object to access these properties. If you create any properties up here, you should create the setters and getters for them. Okay, in here I'm just basically putting this in here, but this could be. Oh yeah, the reason why I didn't show because I hard code this in here, right? I could have. Remember I showed you that it didn't print out the didn't set the file. Let me just undo this. Okay, do this again. So it should change this to about this new site here, but because the way I set up is incorrect. So instead of returning about this sentence, let me cut that out. It would just say return about. Okay, and when I instantiate this, let's just say that I want to set the about to this default string. Now that's okay. So initially the default is this, and then once I run, and then as it run default, change it to a new message, and then return that new string. So let's try that again. Hope this works this time, and go back to the home page. Okay, refresh about. So there it is, right? So this is a default string, and then after that I change it to something else. It shows with the new text. Okay, the default string, and then when I call this set, it changes to a new string right here. I set it to a new string, and then it prints it out to a new string, as you see here. Okay. All right. So this is an example just to show you how you can call properties inside your bean object, and you can do now a lot of other stuff in here. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. In the next couple of videos, I'll show you how to maybe create some more controls, but also we'll probably go over the factorial exercise so you can see how that's done. Any questions, leave a message or put a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.